Hello, Fat Guy Flies RC. You're about to watch the P-39, Eflite P-39 video of doing some landings and takeoffs and tutorials on how to land the plane, how to land a low-wing warbird, specifically the P-39. I've watched the video many times, and I think I'm a little misleading to the viewers when to use flaps and when not to use flaps. So let me just kind of explain. The general rule of thumb is if you're landing into the wind, you shouldn't have to use flaps because water flaps. They're air brakes, right? And so if you're flying to a nice strong wind, then the wind is your air brake and it slows you down. You really shouldn't use flaps. You shouldn't have to use flaps. If there's no wind, well then yeah, you probably do need to use flaps to slow you down. But there's flaps. Using flaps is subjective. It's more about the strength of the wind, the speed in which you're landing, how comfortable you are with the plane, because you got to understand, if you don't have enough downward thrust from that propeller, and then you're coming in at an angle with the flaps, you got to have a controllable speed when you come in when you're using flaps. Yes, it slows you down, but you got to have enough thrust, enough power from the prop to keep you forward, have forward momentum where you can flare and set down. So flaps is more a thing of feel. I'll start out with the video saying, yeah, I'm going to have to use flap, or I don't think I'll need to use flaps because I'm going into the wind. And then I say, no, I will have to use flap because I'm coming in so hot with this P-39. And then towards the end of the video, I just keep landing without flaps. So I'm not trying to be confusing. My main point is that using flaps is something that is more about the feel and how the wind is, and how you as a pilot and how you can handle the skill, how your skill is on landing with flaps. I do not consider using flaps a beginning skill. I think it's something you should work yourself into, because the fact is that you're making the plane artificially slow down, and when you do that, you have a tendency to be able to just tip stall one way or the other on your approach if you slow down too quickly. And some planes, like a high wing, can float right in with flaps and just set right down. Warbirds, however, you do that, you slow down too much, like an A-10 will just suddenly just plop down, if you don't time it right. Other planes will tip off to one side or the other. So it's more about feel and you as a pilot, your skill. So that's just I know it may seem clear as mud. I just want to make sure y'all understand that I'm not trying to say, oh, you always use flaps in this condition, or you always don't use flaps in these conditions. It's more about the conditions at the time and your judgment call as a pilot when to use and when not to use flaps. Thank you so much for your attention. Now enjoy the video. Hello folks, Fat Guy Flies RC here. We're out here at the Avon Park field. We're going to be taking up the Eflite P-39. I'm going to try to give you a little bit of example of how to fly this warbird and how to land her. Specifically pointing out landing. That's the #1 skill you need to be the most try to be the most proficient with. Now the wind is coming basically right down the runway out of the east at about 10 miles an hour, maybe more. Well, you can look at the flags here. And so probably won't need any flaps. And the principle with warbirds is you never let them float in. Now if you're dead stick, you have no power, you don't have any choice. However, with a warbird, you got to come in with a little bit of speed, 1/8 of a throttle or more probably a quarter throttle, and let that plane bleed off its speed naturally once it touches down. If you try to stop a warbird too quick, you're going to, as you approach, you're going to get a lot of bounce. You want to, as Rich at RC Informer says, you want to drive the plane home. You want to drive it home. That's more true with a warbird than probably any other bird. So we got our range test. We got right, we got left, we got up, we got down, we got right, we got left. We have split flaps and we have landing flaps. we got everything we need. So without further ado, let's take off. There again with the Warbird, don't be in a gigantic hurry to get her to take off. Don't be in a gigantic hurry to land her. Let her let that airfoil work naturally. Okay, about 3/4 of a throttle right now. I know the plane seems like it's so far away. Oh man. See, I'm actually going against one of my own things I always say. If the plane is so far away that you can't tell what it's doing, then you're too far away. All right, got the approach. About a 1/4 throttle. There. Let her bleed off her speed. All right, we're gonna try this again. And this plane is pretty darn quick. So I'm running her on a 4-cell, a 2600 HRB. Even with the wind, I am going to have to use flaps, I'm afraid. Even in the wind, I don't have the drop tank in, so there's nothing to really slow her down that much. And she's so sleek that she just slices off into the wind with no problem at all. She has a very sleek lines to her, and all right, we're going to line up with the runway here. Enough throttle to keep her going. Let the mains touch first. Oh man, I didn't let the mains touch first. All three hit at the same time, and I had bounce. We're gonna have to try that again. This is a really fun plane to fly. I just wish this was a nice calm day. I could really show you a little bit better on how to do these. But there again, complaining again. She has a little bit of a torque turn off to the left, so I give a little bit of right throttle, a little bit of right rudder, I mean, as I take off. You know what? We're going to try landing her this time. No flaps. Let her come in just the way she's supposed to. Flaps don't work. That's my problem. My flaps don't work right now. That's what I'm going to say. My flaps don't work. And see? It was almost indistinguishable, but those mains touched first and then the nose touched, which is when you got tricycle gear, that's what you want. You want your mains to touch and then your nose gear, and then let that plane drive itself on home. Let that speed go off naturally. Sometimes you have to have flap with the Warbird though, because she's coming in so fast, and you're going to run her off the edge of the carrier. Okay. Today I'm going to show you flaps now, just because. See how that goes. But there again, no, we're definitely not going to go with. Hold on. Don't like that. Didn't like the approach, so. I guess we will do no flaps.
Time remaining 2 minutes.
All right, get her lined up with the runway. Level out her wings. And make my approach at. You see? I'll let my mains touch, and then I'll let the nose come down. Let your mains on tricycle, let your rear gear down first, and then let your nose settle. Same principle.
All right. With a tail dragger, it's just the opposite. You let your mains touch and then you let your tail come down. Yeah. Oh, the wind is just not being my friend today. But fly when you can. Level her up, bring her in. And there you go. There, let the flaps come down. Now, if you want, if you're doing a no flap landing, and once she's got a solid beat on the ground, I mean, she's rolling good and she's not going to come off, but she's still got a lot of speed. If you want to go ahead and, hey, look at this, our sandhill cranes coming right there. There they are. Then if you want to put some flaps down to slow you down, that's okay too. You just, with flaps, your timing has to be really good. And think of it as some air brakes. But what is an airplane? It's something that's meant to fly, right? So if you slow down too much, then you don't have wind, lift. You lose lift, you stall. And depending on where you're at, stall too much, too hard, guess what? Crash. So flaps are something you use accordingly. If you have to slow it down, if you got to slow it down, then that's fine. But like there, that was a perfect landing with a tricycle warbird with absolutely no flaps. Now, but I'm also going into the wind. Now, here's where I would have used flaps. Now, if I was going that same landing, and if I was coming in and I had no wind at all, and I had that same landing, I guarantee that plane would be going a lot faster, and then I would be using flaps to slow her down to land, to be able to land at that exact same speed. Hopefully that's, you know, not as clear as mud, but the idea is you want to land at a certain speed. That's why flaps give you a timing to where you can land at that controllable speed. Think of it that way. Timing with flaps for controllable speed, controllable landings. That's what you're looking for. All right, we have 37 seconds. We're going to do one more, okay? No flaps again, because with this wind, you know, I'm going into the wind. So there's my air brakes. The wind is my air brakes. You know, that's one way you can look at it. The wind is acting as your flaps. There's a lot of pilots who just could care less whether their plane has flaps or not. They never use them. All right, well, the grass slowed me down then. Cutting grass now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time expired.
Yeah, I know. Time expired. There we go. And that was a great landing because I put my mains down and let the nose hit. Even though I went to the grass, that helped even more. Well, there you go, folks. I hope I haven't made landing warbirds as clear as mud. But what do you want to hear before you touch a bird?
Motor off.
Motor off. Just so you know, I'm running a 2600 HRB 4S in this plane. Okay? And I got it in the tray to where you can see about 1 inch of that battery hangs out, and you can see the end of the battery tray there. And that's where that is. And that balances are just perfect right there. So let's walk her back to the bench. Obviously, I'm carrying her. And let's see, I went the full 5 minutes plus on a 2600. So a lot of y'all like to know how my battery life is afterwards. So let's take a look. All right, put that down. Try to get it. The wind is actually trying to throw these planes out of my hands. So let's just see what we got. Okay, so just I got 5 minutes plus 2 seconds. Okay. All right, 26% left on a 26, oh, that's poetic. 26% left on a 2600 4S. And like I say, you can see where I've got that in the tray. You can see the end of the battery about 1 inch back from the right there. All right, folks, well, thank you so much for watching. That's the P-39. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm trying to get these warbirds out regardless of the wind. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and God bless. Oh yeah, let me get my battery checker out of there. Bye-bye.